Okay, so let's get going. A little bit about EON Reality. We've been in existence for more than 20 years and focused solely on knowledge transfer. We have different strategies that cover both virtual reality and augmented reality. And for you that may not be familiar, virtual reality is an environment where you encapsulate the environment, while augmented reality is a digital content overlay in the real world. We work with governments, academia, and enterprise and have designed specific strategies for each sector. In government, Human 2.0, or how to help and enhance humans. In academia, Classroom 3.0, the experiential way of learning. And in enterprise, Industry 4.0. Now, to be a little bit practical to start with, I will share with you inauguration of centers. We have multiple centers where we create awareness, understanding, and belief around virtual reality. And this specific one happens to be in Bologna. Let me show. And we inaugurated it last year. And this is a partnership with the university that has 60,000 students. And in this center, students and teachers can come, learn, experience firsthand these type of technologies, and then practically be guided how to deploy them. In this case, we are now deploying almost 60,000 students. We started with the diploma students and expanding one after the other. Another example is from Singapore. There we have a center established with NTU, which is the #1 university in Asia. And this is from our last event where we had more than 450 participants from more than 50 countries.
The need to ensure our students have those foundational skills, and they need to be able to practice in a safe space, and the way of doing that in a realistic environment is using AR and VR technology.
So it's an excellent way to educate teachers and convince them of the benefits. And this is a cross-platform.
We must know that human brain and learning capacity have not changed as fast as the world around us. There is need to create opportunities for continuous learning. We must learn faster and more flexibly. Learning to learn, being able to acquire new skills, and thinking critically and creatively are some of the key factors for the education of tomorrow.
This is the ambassador of Finland that was part of this event. And based on the successes of this type of events, obviously we've expanded in many locations in Asia. China is one of the fastest growing areas for us. But we also work in Africa, and we believe that knowledge is a human right, and have done so for the last 15 years. And this is an example of an announcement of a new center we do together with USAID and UNIDO in Rabat. So this is the actual event, and we see representatives from the top universities, Mohammed 5, Mohammed 6, and initially we are rolling out 8,500 students and workers, and our goal is to reach 50,000 within the next 3 to 5 years. So let's talk a little bit about challenges that we face. So we face challenges today in different dimensions. Let's start with the workforce. We do know that technology is the #1 killer of jobs, but it's also the one that creates most of them. There's a gap today in between the skills that exist and the skills needed for full-time employment. And this was going to progress, accelerate. In fact, by 2030, according to McKinsey, half of the workers in Japan and 33% of the US workforce will require retraining. And the type of jobs that are coming or continuing to expand are non-routine cognitive jobs. So things like management, healthcare, technical, engineers, creatives. There's two scenarios here. There's the negative scenarios that I personally don't believe in, which is that most people will be replaced by machines, and AI will take over all the jobs and we will be rendered useless. I don't believe that. In fact, Elon Musk's latest Tesla factory opening show that humans are underrated. We believe in a solution that is more positive, where human 2.0 is what we call it. It's enhanced humans. I would say a blended man-machine symbiotic partnership. Now, to achieve that, you do need to be a little bit better with technology than we are today. So today I would say humans are 1.3 because we use mobile phones, but we interact with them at the speed of thumb. So it's a bit too slow. And now neural lace, this is the new thing that Elon Musk is talking about, to connect your brain basically directly with the machines. I believe it's a bit too far. However, there is a solution today, and that's what I'm going to talk about, is to use virtual and augmented reality for this. This will impact, of course, a lot of workers out there that today use paper and pen, but also impact a lot of academia. So let's talk about academic institutions. So if we look back, in time, you can see Bologna here, that was founded quite a long time ago. And we look at the academic mission, which is to deliver research, but also to teach, to educate the next generation. They have a few problems, I would say. The first one is a quantitative education problem. We need to all teach more with less time and less money. Another problem is more qualitative, what we teach exactly. So it's not so much about teaching about remember understanding, because those are the skills that will easily be replaced by machines, but it's more about applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating. That's where the future jobs are. And then the third problem is what I call sage on a stage. You can see that in the 1400 they were not too happy with that method, but that hasn't changed much. We still have sage on a stage. And the result of that is students don't find it interesting, they don't find it fun, and they are quite increasingly unhappy about the fact that they have to pay a lot of money for something that they find old and sometimes even irrelevant. And the new students, the learners today, are quite different. So if you were to look and choose three options, which of these three options you think that students characterize the students today? Resilient, social learners, enjoy lectures, access content in school, multitaskers, or short attention span? You have to choose three. Okay. So the first one is, ready? Yeah, there you go. Social learners, multitaskers, and short attention span. You don't hear often that they enjoy lectures, right? In fact, John Dewey said, if we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow. That's one of the quotes. Now, technology has arrived and has done part of this job and tried to modernize. But I would claim that this is not true disruptions. Books became ebooks, but still books. Blackboard became YouTube videos, but still linear. And lectures became MOOCs. Not a transformation, precisely. So there is a solution here, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And I believe that learning is in 3D. That's the way we perceive the world. Our big brain, our eyes, they are not perceiving things in 3D. In fact, it's quite difficult. We have to translate 3D to 2D, or 2D to 3D, I should say, in order to perceive it in the brain. So there's a lot of students out there. There's about 1.3 billion students that could benefit from learning this new way. And by learning in 3D and interactively, exploratory in virtual reality, we learn faster, we retain information longer, and we make ultimately better decisions. It's about situation cognition or context. It's about immersion. It's about pattern recognition. And it's about the whole, I would say, psychosocial moratorium. The ability to take risks when you are in these environments and learn by doing. Now, here's a question. I would say no one around the world that I've talked with disagree fundamentally on this. They agree, but they say, Dan, it's too complicated. We tried virtual reality, augmented reality. You need programmers, you need expensive equipment, you need all these things, right? And in fact, if you look at the statistics, and we'll see that in a second, a lot of people have tried it, but haven't succeeded. So what about if you could create yourself an augmented virtual reality lesson, and it's as easy or even easier than using PowerPoint? And you can experience this on anything, on your existing smartphone or on a tablet. The question becomes, can you, or should you, your teaching still remain in the old retro way? And I believe most of us, most of you would say, no, we should advance. Okay, so let's advance. We're going to talk about learning, we're going to talk about training, and we're going to talk about performing. So learning first. So what we see here is a platform that EON has developed, and it's the world-leading platform for virtual and augmented reality. It has the world's largest library for learning, more than 870,000 3D virtual reality assets, and it works on almost anything. It works, as I said, on your tablet, as you can see here. It works in augmented reality or virtual reality, with headsets or large screens. And the best part of the whole platform is that it is easy, truly easy to develop the content. We can teach people in less than 1 hour. In fact, many of them pick it up directly. It's almost as easy as uploading a YouTube video. Now, once you learned, you have to train. And we can do that also within this platform. So what we're doing here is very much the way I used to work with simulators. Nobody in the world disputes the fact that it is significantly better to qualify a pilot by doing so in a simulator where he has to do emergency landing in water versus giving him or her a paper exam. And that's exactly what we do in virtual training. But we do it not only for aircrafts, we do it for almost any aspect of a future job that you can think about. From nursing, mechanical engineering, factory workers, etc., etc. And we can do it on distance, so from one location to the other. And we can also, and this is perhaps the most important part, we can certify them. Every move they make, everything they touch, we can follow them, and we can provide certification and credentials, as well as an automatic assessment. And that makes really Virtual Trainer superior. Okay, so we learn, we train, and then eventually we have to go out there in the workspace and perform what we learned and we trained for. And the beauty with this platform that we can do that also.
AR Assist helps your workforce perform better. This cross-platform augmented reality solution supports workers with real-time contextual data for their day-to-day tasks. Working across platforms.
So what we're doing here is that we can apply what you learned in the physical context, and we can inject that knowledge when you need it, as you need it, in the context that you need it, for the level of competence that you have. And we can do it with headsets, and we can do it with a regular tablet that you hold in front of the object or the environment that you need to perform a task. So this is a very efficient way. And in fact, this is very much in line with what we think is the future of learning, that you get also, you learn for your life, long life learning, but you get those nano lessons or nano instructions really when you need them. Okay. We're also looking at how can we provide the best experience for the students. And a big realization, it's not about technology alone. A great educator is required together with a great technology in order to make that happen. So that's the reason we started a non-profit, and we are focusing on advancing the cause for augmented and virtual reality. And we've been lucky to attract some very high-level academics, and among them is our chairman that has been the president of NTU and the chairman of the Nobel Prize Committee in Chemistry.
Hi, I'm Bertil Andersson. I'm a professor of biochemistry from Sweden, and I've gone from cold to warm since I lived 11 years in Singapore, and I have been leading Nanyang Technological University, NTU, as its provost and also its president.
So what's interesting with Professor Bertil Andersson is that he truly reformed education, and you can listen to the whole video how he did it. But essentially what he did is he closed down all the lecture halls, and he introduced what he refers to as Classroom 2.0. So going from just traditional lecture halls where you flip the classroom and the teachers are working together with the students in groups and becomes more of a mentor. He did that, and as a part of this effort, he took the university from ranking number 86 to number 11 in the world and number 1 in Asia. He also started working together with us, and together we start evolving NTU to what we call Classroom 3.0, which is experiential, virtual reality, augmented reality based learning. And when he ended his career with NTU, we were very honored and happy that he wanted to become the chairman for EON Education. And in that capacity, he's been able to do a lot of interesting things for us, but also to gather leading academic persons and educators and leaders in this sector around the world. And people like Janie Hyham, she is principal of St. George University of London. Montserrat Gomedio, she is the director for education skills for OECD. Or José Ignacio Wert, he's the former Minister of Education from Spain. Peter Luker, Head of Learning, Teaching, and TU, etc., etc. So together with educators and technology, we have made this possible. Let me offer you some examples here. This is actually learning in context. So you see a worker learning and training and performing, actually, eventually, this is the performance part, practically task or standard operation procedures. Okay, let's talk more about academic adoption. So who's using EON's platforms today? We have a number of pretty famous academic institutions like Carnegie Mellon, Cornell University, NTU, Imperial College. Those are some of our customers. But as the technology has become cheaper and faster and better, we've seen that it's not only very prestigious universities, but this has now penetrated technical vocational training, professional skills, all the way to K-12. Now, why do they use it? In short, because it works. There is ample evidence that students in a VR classroom increase their attention span. You can't sleep. For example, when you have to do an emergency landing on an aircraft, or you have to take certain steps in a few seconds to save a patient's life. So simulation and virtual reality based learning also increases your retention, and 35% increase in test scores. 87% of the students, 86, sorry, increased or improved their test results. And recently, we've also seen strong evidence from medical and brain imaging. You can see to the left is a normal brain, to the right is a brain that is learning through augmented reality versus traditional books. 70% increase in memory encoding. And there's videos around this.
So this part of the brain is associated with visual attention. It's what's occupying our eyes in the visual field. And we measure responses in both the left brain, which is attention for detail and words, and the right brain, which is attention for more the overall feel of something, the global aspects of processing. In the case of augmented reality experiences, we see levels of visual attention that are around double the levels that we see for the equivalent experiences carried out in a more everyday normal setting.
And there's a lot of examples that I'm happy to share with you. I'm not going to go through all of them today. Publication in the Journal of Engineering, and a lot of statistics that are quite impressive. It's also interesting to see where education technology spending will be utilized, and you can see that the prediction for 18 to 25 is that the vast, I would say the dominating sector will be augmented and virtual reality, much bigger than artificial intelligence or robotics or blockchain. This figure is perhaps one of the most interesting in today's presentation, because this is the main reason that not everybody is using VR and AR today. Almost a third of higher education institutions, 20 of the more than 26,000, have engaged in some level of virtual reality deployment. But, and here's the big but, 82% of them have not yet moved beyond the pilot stages. In fact, the enthusiasm is dwindling because they have gone to what I call this curve that was put in place a while ago, where you underestimate you overestimate the opportunities in some cases, but you underestimate the practical aspects to implement it. And this is called the hype curve. And this is valid for everything from the internet, you remember the .com crash, to the introduction of the railroads. And this is exactly what EON has focused on solving over the last 20 years, specifically over the last 5 years, and we've succeeded with. And that's what I will dedicate most of the remaining time to talk about. But first, some academic use cases. So here's one of our partners that are hosted in our platform, and it's called the Vault. So the platform has different parts. The Vault is where we have a vast library of very in-depth applications that are developed with certified partners, with the best of the best in each segment, and that are currently used. So, for example, this ophthalmology application is used around the globe by the most prestigious academic institutions like Yale and Stanford and many others. And in this particular case, what you see there is an interactive virtual dissection. So the simulator can do that. You can do many other things. I'm not going to go through all of them. You can dissect, for example, the eye, which is not so easy to do in real life. And you can see how the blood flow works. But you can also do things that you can do in real life. And let me share with you an concrete example here. You can inject various dysfunction in a virtual patient and then examine the patient, and the patient will react as if he or she has that dysfunction, which is a way to basically allow students and practitioners to learn, but experience much more in a short time span than they would have experienced in an entire career. And we've done a lot of studies, some of them have been published, about what the effects are, and this is very interesting. So here are the results. So figure 1 shows participants' confidence to perform pupillary examination before and after training with advanced pupil simulator. So the first one here is before. You can see the blue that 97% were not confident and only 3% were confident, and after 97% are confident and only 2 are not confident. And this works also for residents. So pre-training, 53% were 53% were not confident, 47% were confident. After training, 94% were confident and only 5% were not confident. So this is drastic improvement by using the simulator. But this can be used also for many practical skills. How about the jobs of the futures? We don't know what the jobs of the futures are. All we know is that the labs will be more expensive, and there will be equipment that you have to learn on a daily basis, lifelong learning basically. So we've done and tackled that by having one of the world's largest virtual reality and augmented reality lab, where you can go and train and learn skills. And I'll show you just 2 or 3 examples. This has been developed with experts in this area. And the first lab here is a welding lab. So the user here has to come in. You see the user, and he has the right equipment, and the equipment works as it should work in real life. And you can weld. You can see the welding there, and the weld thickness and speed simulates the real experience. So I mean, I've been traveling to many hundreds universities, and the reality is none of them can buy all this equipment, and by the time they bought it, it's also old. So this is another lab, and notice here that everything works as it should in real life. Even how you prepare, which gloves you take in, the computers, the right equipment, the tools, the instruments, how you do, and you can see here that he's actually have to move the standard operation procedures that he has to undergo, etc., etc. Quite impressive. And the system recognizes which device he holds. Things that, but most important also, is the assessment component. What I mean by that is as I said earlier, every move you make, every step you take, I'll be watching you, if you remember the old song. So we know what the student does and can provide a very accurate assessment, like you do in an aircraft simulator. This one particular is about virtual lab, so it contains tons of equipment. We can have access to, as I said earlier, 870,000 different virtual reality learning objects and environment. No university could buy even a fraction of that. In here you have your nuclear power plant, you have your cars, and the details are there, and etc. When I mentioned Nanyang Technology University, so we've done quite a lot of advanced application, in some cases also research. And the reason is actually the Singaporean government. They dedicated in 2015 a 5-year, $75 million project called Technology Enhanced Learning. And it's to future-proof the way they teach and learn. And as a part of that, we created a center together. And this center has developed a lot of interesting learning methods using our platform, but also looked at things like safety and security. This is one of the things that you very much need to do in a lab environment. It's, for example, the extinguishing fires, etc. And as a part of this, National Research Foundation has approached us to apply for grants, for them to apply to additional grants, especially in the area of safety, security, and health. And this has actually spread like the rings over water, and now we work with more than 12 different academic institutions in Singapore, for example. So this is learning. And what's interesting with EON is this doesn't only work with headsets. This works with headsets, this works with, for example, desktop applications. We have special desktop, big rooms like you saw previously, all the way to your mobile device. Let me just see, there is a mobile device. Okay. And the partnership between us and, for example, the Institute of Technical Education, through that we develop specific applications that are certified for marine, aerospace, space design, facility management, hospitality, floristry, etc., etc. And that's what built our partnership with more than 450 academic institutions, has built close to, a lot of lessons. The world's largest library. This is an example for lesson creation with Mohawk College, college in Canada. This is another example for a university from Australia. And we're not limiting ourselves to the developing world. We also work in Africa and developing countries. So this is an example from Ethiopia, a project that we've done together with UNIDO. And there's many other examples that I can briefly share, but not too much.
Attending my primary classes under a
So
tree.
this is in Africa. There we worked with, still working with students that come from the very poor areas, and they are able to create with our platform very easy this type of content. Or another example is Middle East. So this is where we selected to work with ladies. And as you know, in Saudi Arabia, it wasn't long ago when ladies couldn't even drive and were not, basically blocked from the workforce. But we have been able, through our platform, to engage with these ladies in our centers, and they are creating amazing applications for oil and gas organizations like Aramco that now are not only used in Saudi Arabia and GCC, but around the world. And finally, we also breaking down language barriers by using, this is an application utilized by the largest, if not one of the largest at least, language learning schools in Brazil with more than 50,000 students.
Are there washing machines in a living room?
And this is deployed with all kinds of students, including poor students from favelas. So, if we can do it there, we can do it anywhere. We're also looking, I talked about research, how to leverage this knowledge for grants. And we've been in process to apply for a corporate lab grant together with NTU. And we have competence. And this is one big problem for many universities, how to secure grants. Because today, as you know, grants require a lot more commercialization opportunities. And we can co-invest with them and match the grant amount, as well as help with the commercialization if the outcome is in line with our vision. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about technology, but not too much. So don't get scared here. So I like to compare augmented virtual reality with an iceberg. On top is the devices, but what you have underlying here, is the difficulty. And that's the main reason that virtual reality and augmented reality is not used now by thousands of students in each academic institution. And this is the problem that the platform that we developed has solved. Okay? So, first of all, you have to take data in. There's hundreds of different data formats, from computer-aided design, CAD, to MRI, medical, to GIS, and there's multiple more. EON can import almost any data format. So that's more than 120 formats. The next problem is once you get your data, it's dead, doesn't do anything necessarily. So that's where we inject knowledge in it. And in difference between our way and the traditional way in the past, where you had to use game engines, is that EON has developed a much more easy way that allows non-programmers and people that don't know advanced applications to do it themselves. Okay, so that's very important. And then ultimately to publish this. And there, with respect to publishing, we are totally agnostic. We can publish to almost any type of device, and we keep adding more and more devices. So I think we today can publish to more than 30 different headsets, screens, etc. And this platform underlying, although it's very easy on the top, underlying this, there's a number of things that we do. We have also content management applications, so we can manage whatever contents be created, the publishing, the service, the user management, analytics. We have links to artificial intelligence, IoT, multi-user capabilities, etc. I will do a demo, but in interest of your time, I'll do it shortly after this webinar. So I would like to highlight this with a full workshop. And that's, if you're interested, that's what I will invite you to do next. Because after that, we can simply do a needs assessment and get you started.
Welcome again to the
But here I'll do just a brief
Today,
video.
we're going to take a sneak peek at our next major release with some new features, a fresh look, and a streamlined user experience. Our focus for this release is easy, effortless, affordable, self-service, and interconnected. Let's go ahead and sign into the platform and get started. Welcome to our library. We can now filter lessons by 3D and 360. For teachers and trainers, creating lessons is easier than ever. Let's start with a 3D one. Educators can choose to browse or import 3D content to get started. Let's first browse. With this release, we have further integrated CG Trader's massive 3D library.
So we have
even more options
multiple
when creating
sources. That's what
Let's go
adds
back, though,
to
and choose to
870,000
import our own 3D
assets.
concept. With this release, the AVR platform now supports AutoCAD. Let's import this CAD file to create a new lesson.
We support actually 120 formats.
It's now been converted, and I've
in the
added
standard
some
platforms
contextual
nowadays.
content. Let's jump into virtual reality and explore this lesson we just created. This release introduces major updates to Virtual Trainer, including this handy first-time user experience walkthrough for first-timers. We can now access all the lesson elements in VR, like voiceover narration and this YouTube video I added. This allows students and trainees to immersively interact with the entire library of 3D lessons created by educators and trainers on the mobile app or PC. Another major update is the 360 module. Educators can now use 360 media to create immersive lessons that are more environmental based. Again, we can choose to browse or import. Let's import this 360 image. We can add contextual information, videos, voiceover narration, and quizzes to complete our lesson. Students and trainees can now learn using 360 lessons either on PC or on a mobile device, creating a truly experiential learning session. Finally, this release also brings major updates to our mobile app, including all these new features and the improved user experience, giving both students and educators easy access to the AVR platform.
So yeah, so what characterizes the platform is the easy. Easy stands for effortless, affordable. You'll see in a second, we charge only $12 per student a month for using the platform, and $42 for workers. Self-service, the fact that you can do it yourself, and interconnected. This works on different platforms, virtual reality, augmented reality, etc. But I also want to share with you the Vault, and you may ask yourself, what's the Vault? Let me just show you one of our how the Vault actually works. 1 second. Yeah, I need to connect myself to internet. Bear with me. 1 moment. There you go. I turn off internet because I don't want our webinar to be disturbed. Okay, so let's try again. Yeah, we are linked. So what's interesting with this is that that we have a very rich application. So it's the platform is very extremely wide, and you can create very simple lesson. But what about if you want to do more detailed, like the one we saw for the welding, etc. So for that, we have a range of a library, a little bit like the best way I would put it is that it's virtual reality for Netflix. Netflix for education, if you will. And you can see here that you can look at an application, and you can, before you select it, ask for video recording, so you can see how the application works. So you can see this is a waste management. There is a price, and if I like it, I can add it to order. And this ranges for this. I will do this in the workshop, but you can see here that literally thousands of applications, right? And this is a combined effort over the last 20 years. And some of these applications can be extremely complex. I'll show you one application here. This is done for an oil and gas company. And it contains in itself hundreds of different sub-lessons for parts. Because this is an entire how to do a frac job. And it's of course a lot of machinery involved, a lot of different activities that are required to make this happen. So for academic institutions to get access to this rich library is obviously very beneficial. So we talked about effortless, intuitive, easy to use, affordable, no major investments in hardware required, affordable packages, self-service, do-it-yourself. I did last week when we released the new platform. I personally spent maybe 2 hours a day for 7 days and did 430 lessons. I can share them with you if you want later. Interconnected, we talked about mixed reality for this. And that's the combination, the balance between the platform on one side and the Vault, which are the very advanced, complete, need-specific applications that you can choose from. And both of them you can start immediately. So the Vault covers depth, the platform itself is very wide, and in between we also have set up now a marketplace where partner-developed application can be put on the Vault. So it becomes an option for passive income for academic institutions where if someone buys that assets or lesson, they get 70% of the revenue. Okay, so there's many interesting things coming out. I'll share just with you one simple example. So this is multi-user.
Feature, you can now allow any object.
So the proper order for disassembling the V-twin engine is like this. You want to start with the camshaft before moving on.
So basically that's a 3D recording button.
The proper order for disassembling the V-twin engine is like this.
And what you see there is a standard operation procedure that the user can record just simply on his mobile phone of how this works. Oops, sorry. I did a little mistake there. No worries.
Order for disassembling the V-twin engine is like this. You want to start with the camshaft.
This new feature is incredibly powerful for providing step-by-step instructions in their proper order. Also new to Creator AVR, you can forget being limited to one-on-one sessions. With the new collaboration feature, you can now allow others to learn with you through Creator AVR's lessons. With a simple email invitation, 2 or more students or trainees can experience the same lesson at the same time, making it ideal both for group studying as well as instructors looking to teach more efficiently. Lastly, AR Assist brings powerful new features to help your workforce perform better, including improved HoloLens support.
Yes, what we see here is that I can hold my device in front of AR Assist, and then I can get instruction in real life about a specific topic or a specific device. Okay. Now, it's kind of clear that let's say if we met 10 years ago, what would have happened is that we would do a service with academic institutions. So we had a platform that was like a game engine, and then we built everything on top. And that's what most academic institutions do today. They have a couple of engineers that work with a professor, and they do that by hand, so to speak, using a game engine. Now that has been changed completely with the platform, because 95% of the work is already done by the platform. So it makes it much more cost efficient to develop, faster, and obviously much better. Okay, so at this point, you learned a little bit about VR and AR. You may wonder, what about the landscape? How does this landscape look? Now, there is quite a few big companies that are engaged here, especially to develop devices. Magic Leap is one of them. Google is supporting that company. Oculus from Facebook, Microsoft with HoloLens, HTC Vive. And what strikes all those companies is while the devices are becoming much better, there's a vast need for content and lessons, an easy way to create content. So that's why they have selected, so for example, Magic Leap has selected EON as the partner for education, so their users can get access to, close to 1 million lessons and an easy way to create new ones. And in the bottom, we have the game engine companies. Companies like Unity, Unreal, CryGen. And these companies are also very interesting because we support them all. So we are agnostic and we don't use only proprietary activities. We also want to support these third parties. Now, on the left side, you have entertainment and gaming, and there are a number of good companies there. EON does not operate in that space at all. We solely focus on knowledge transfer, education, enterprise. And in this segment, we dominate the market. We are probably at least 10 times bigger or 20 times bigger than number 2. And there's a whole competitive landscape document we can share with you if you're interested. Now, the key question now is, how do we expose this for all the academic institutions and students that want to have it? So we started a few years ago with a strategy we call interactive digital centers. And these centers essentially are there to create awareness, understanding, and belief, to disseminate the platform and to make it available so not just a few students in an academic institution or a few professors, but literally tens of thousands of students can have this as a way where the teacher, together with the platform, helps them to learn better, faster. And also, these centers are a partnership where new IP and new research is conducted to create both new features, but also new type of knowledge encapsulation and lessons. And this is then disseminated through a marketplace, a global marketplace. So far, about 41 million people have downloaded EON's viewers over the years. And EON has programs where we support and invest, co-invest in these centers. A couple of references: we have about 50 centers so far, and we are targeting 100. So if you are interested in this program and seeking a co-investment from our side and want to establish this at your location, you're welcome to contact us. We talked an example was Singapore. We have a center there. We have several centers in China with the government and with academic institutions. China is investing a lot in these activities, including China Merchant Group, which is the 4th largest company in China. They believe in education, and they're also helping other nations on the Belt and Road Initiative. But we are not limiting ourselves to these countries. We also go in countries as Ethiopia. Ethiopia, here is myself with the Minister of Education during a signature of a center. And we partner, as I said, and this partnership typically we cover the majority of the cost for the systems, the virtual reality demo showroom, the required education platform that supports 7,000 students for 5 years, development lab with all the required software, support upgrades, academy curriculum, how to teach this based on experience with others, access to the vault. So if you're part of the center, you don't have to pay for the vault items. You have access to them all. So everything needed to make that academic institution embrace augmented virtual reality widely. So typically the local partner then invests a limited amount, 25%. This is for a full-fledged center, or 24% in this case. And there's programs obviously with various sizes. This is when you want to do a university-wide deployment and to create an exclusive partnership for the region. So to sustain this, obviously beyond the center, we charge a fee. I mentioned this already. Students $12 per user month, and academia the same level, obviously, but teachers the same, but then $42 for industry. So in essence, interesting enough, these centers have also become some type of triple helix, lifelong learning dissemination vehicle, incubating, vibrant, I would say incubating center, and a platform where industry, local governments, and academia can work together. Oftentimes I get the question, so what if we were to do this, what would be my return on this investment? The key return investment is that you will transform education at your institution for something that will come, and is already here, I should say, for most academic institutions that are progressive. But there's actually also an opportunity to receive some passive revenue, because the center shares revenues generated through visitors and people that look at the center. And the revenues are shared in such a way that all locally developed application and intellectual property is owned by the academic institution, and the academic institution can freely distribute or sell this. If they want to utilize the marketplace, then we retain 30% and they get 70%. If the platform licenses are sold beyond the academic institution, then the university partner receives 35%. Of course, there are smaller packages if you want to dip your toes in the water, starting at 50,000, schools at 250,000, campuses at 1.2 million, etc. But I'm very fascinated about locally developed application intellectual property, because that's something that many academic institutions want to do. And also to use the center as a way to do national or regional rollouts. I'll skip a few slides here about financial models. I don't think that's interesting for the team at the moment. And finally, summarize with the key benefits for the center. So it's evident that together we can accelerate your AVIA campus implementation of this technology, that it can be used as a tool for multi-campus collaboration, that many academic institutions today move from just traditional learning to problem-based, challenge-based, experiential learning, and having the platform in the vault helps tremendously, because you have to, for example, if you want to optimize logistics in a factory, it helps to have a virtual factory at your fingertips. Also, it is innovative. It is this institution now, your institution, becomes the regional center of excellence. Volume rollouts. Initially, it will be about 8,500 students we start with. The fact that it works and it's well appreciated by students. Students enjoy learning more in this fashion. Also, the ability to leverage the partnership for research grants, given both the in-kind contribution component, but also commercialization opportunities globally through the marketplace and our network. And scaling online, this is an area that many academic institutions struggle with, how they expand, because online learning hasn't been that fun or experiential or dynamic. VR and AR definitely adds that part. Save a lot of money, because not have to go in this game where you have to constantly buy more physical equipment that is obsolete by the time you install it, using instead virtual labs. And not at least that if you qualify for one of our programs, that we can invest the majority to get you going. With that, I thank you so much. It's been a fairly long speech, and I will open up for questions. If you are interested to learn more, feel free to visit our website, our YouTube videos, but perhaps best way, contact us today for a one-on-one session. And also, I would highly recommend you, whatever you do, is join one of the free workshops, because then you will practically see and hear from myself and educators how this is used in a daily basis. Thank you so much. Have a good one.